Again, welcome everybody. My name is Bob Stewart. We're going to talk today about unlocking the secrets to keyword phrases. If you'd like to talk to us while we're going through here, you really talk to me anytime. I'm at ActiveBob on Twitter, and then ActiveRain. We've got a little hashtag as well, or a Twitter page as well, at ActiveRain. So keyword phrases. So this is the second class in our bootcamp series, and the first class we spoke about SEO. What are some of the tenets of writing a blog post that ranks well in the search engines? But if we're not writing about the proper things, if we're not writing about things that consumers are actually searching for, then it doesn't really matter if we can get it to rank, right? We have to be able to get it to rank, but we also have to be able to write about the things that people are actually out there searching for. And so keywords, keyword phrases, it's just that thing that somebody searches for when they go to Google. And we'll use Google as the kind of the 800-pound gorilla here, because in the search engine world they are, but the same concept applies to Yahoo or Bing or AOL or any of the other places that people search online. So when you sit down to write a blog post, and again from last week or from last class, and if you haven't seen that, we do have recordings of all of our classes, but from the last class we talked about one of the primary things that we need to consider is the title of our blog post. The title of our blog post becomes the page title. It becomes the phrase that we use 3 to 5 times throughout the body of the post. It becomes kind of that phrase, that keyword phrase that we're trying to optimize to get our page to rank for. So one of the things that you need to think about really anytime you write a blog post, but especially if the aim of that post is to get it ranking in the search engines, is will anyone ever search for this? And this applies to just about any kind of a post that you write, because you are trying to get these things in front of as many people as possible, and one of the primary means that we do that is by getting them to rank in the search engines. Okay, the majority of traffic on ActiveRain is coming out of the search engines, with the primary one being Google. So I want you guys to kind of look at, and these are just some random, I don't mean to pick on these people, but these are some random posts that I've pulled from the network. And we can see in blue there the title of the post. And so I want you to look at these things, and let's just look at like the one in the top left, right? 2012 market update. So Brian has written this market update. We don't know where it's about. We don't know what it's about. We don't know if it's about, loan prices. We don't know if it's about home prices in Wallingford, Seattle. And not only do we not know, but the search engine doesn't know. Now look at David's, the second example. Pumpkin festivals are so much fun. I agree with him. I like to take my kid out to the pumpkin festival, in the fall. But what pumpkin festival? And we can see as we kind of look into the body of the post there below that he's talking about the Art and Wine Pumpkin Festival in Ladysmith Village. And I actually went yesterday and I was kind of poking around and I went to search for that particular phrase. Like if I was a consumer, let's say coming up this next fall, and I wanted to get some information on the Art and Wine Pumpkin Festival, would David's post show up even though his title is not geared towards the keyword phrase that I would go out and search for, right? As a consumer, I'm not going to search for pumpkin festivals are fun. I'm going to search for, the Art and Wine Pumpkin Festival dates or something like that. So he would have wanted to have had a keyword phrase like the Art and Wine Pumpkin Festival in Ladysmith Village. That should have been the keyword phrase that he used for the title of his blog post. And we see this all the time, and I get why people do this. The one in the top right there, home for your growing family, right? We really need to get in the mindset when we're writing blog posts. How is the information that I'm sharing in this blog post going to be found by somebody? What kinds of phrases, what kinds of terms are they going to use in the search engine that could lead them to the content that I'm creating? So it would be more common that they would search, give me 1 second here. It would be more common that they would search something like this. And so here are some phrases or some some posts where the keywords are a little bit cleaner. And these are actual posts that have been found in the search engines via Google, finding an active rain post recently, okay? And we can see, based on the highlighted words, kind of what the keyword phrase was that the person searched for. So that top left one was actually condos for sale near Emory University. So that was a search that somebody recently did that led them to a blog post on Active Rain. Bank-owned homes for sale in Vancouver, Washington. Okay, oceanfront homes for sale in Vero Beach. And we can see these ones make more sense, right? Now, the oceanfront homes for sale in Vero Beach, Barbara could have went out there and done something like we see in these ones, amazing, beautiful homes on the beach, right? But she realizes and understands that the way that consumers search online is based on some very specific sorts of things, and we're going to dive into those here in just a minute. So every time we're writing a blog post, we need to think, what are the phrases that could potentially lead somebody to the content that we're writing? And we need to realize it's not these kind of flowery descriptions, charming home in a wonderful community. I'm sure that the listing that you're about to write about is a charming home in a wonderful community. That's not how people go online and search for homes. And just by looking in this description here in the bottom right, the page description, right, there's a couple things I could draw out of there. Like I might have made this, 2-bedroom, 2-bath condos in Bellingham, right? That more appropriately describes, especially as it relates to the keywords that somebody might search, what Christine was writing about. So we talk about this in last week's class, but I really want to kind of impress it upon you again, this concept of the big head versus the long tail. And basically what the big head is these common phrases that are searched for in high volume. And in any one of your markets, there's about 8 of these phrases that make up 30% of the search traffic. Okay, so let's take Seattle as an example. Those phrases would be homes for sale in Seattle, Seattle real estate, houses for sale in Seattle, Seattle condos. Those phrases, and then some variations on those phrases, right? Seattle houses for sale instead of houses for sale in Seattle. But there's about 8 phrases that make up 30% of the search volume in any given market. Who dominates those particular queries? Realtor.com, right? Trulia, Zillow, these big boxes. In each of our markets, there's probably one agent or two that's able to get on the first page because they've been, for the last 10 years optimizing their websites, and they're really ahead of the game. The long tail then becomes the other 99.99% of the ways that people search for something. And in real estate, it's no different than any other vertical, with no one search being done very often, but cumulatively, all of that search traffic and all of that search behavior accounts for 70% of the traffic. So what we see is that very particular terms, while not done very often, cumulatively can still add a ton of traffic to our blog or our website. So we're really going to focus on the long tail today because unfortunately, gosh, and you know what, I wish that I could have you write a blog post on Active Rain today that was homes for sale in Seattle, and that thing would rank on the first page of the search engine, but it's not going to happen. Okay, the Trulias, the Zillows, they're spending literally millions of dollars on search engine optimization, right? They've got thousands and thousands and thousands of inbound links to their website, and Active Rain has a lot of inbound links as well, but they have a whole team of people that all they do all day long is figure out how to get to rank for these big head terms. Now, while focusing on the long tail, there's some kind of benefits that we'll realize. And the first benefit would be that, hey, we can rank on the first page of the search engines rather quickly. Okay. We're also going to be able to find a little bit more targeted traffic on people that are probably closer to taking action. And one of the things that we learned before we launched Active Rain, and it's been 7 years, but these same concepts apply today. And as we look at some of the ways that people search, I think it's becoming even more pronounced because people realize more so than they did 7 years ago when we were really active with our own brokerage website, people realize even more so today that if I want a specific thing on Google, I can type in a very specific phrase to get it, right? And Google's getting so much better at finding me the most relevant piece of content for whatever query I put in. So what we found, so many years ago was the consumers that landed on our website that used a long tail search phrase were almost twice as likely to be thinking about buying as somebody that used a generic phrase. The average back then was when somebody went online looking for real estate, they were about 8 months away from making a purchase. When they used a long tail keyword phrase, and we did about 2 years of research on this, looking at the ways that people found our site, and then how long it was between when they landed on our site and when they were actually out in the car looking at homes with one of the agents in our office. And we found that people using long tail search terms, that period went from 8 months down to 4 months. They were a heck of a lot closer to actually buying something, and it makes sense, right? Somebody that looked for a Seattle condos for sale versus somebody that looked for a loft condo in Belltown, Seattle. That guy looking for a loft condo in Belltown, Seattle, he's going to be a heck of a lot closer to actually buying something. So here's the things that we want to think about when selecting a keyword phrase. And this particularly applies to real estate, but it also applies to just most of the ways that people search, most of the verticals that people would search on. There's going to be two components to their search. There's going to be a subject matter component, and there's going to be a geography component. Okay, like if somebody's searching for, in retail these days, there's maybe not as much of that geography component, right? If I was just searching for like some red Nike men's running shoes or something, I wouldn't necessarily put in Seattle unless I was looking to like go get them today. I might do that, right? But as it relates to real estate, there's almost always this kind of geographical component to the search, and there's always subject matter. Okay, so we've got these two kind of sides to a keyword phrase, the subject matter and the geography. And the way that we can get kind of thinking in terms of the long tail and thinking about things that we could write about today that would actually rank in the search engines, there's kind of two sides to this. One side would be the more specific we are with our geography, the less specific we need to be with our subject matter. Okay, we'll look at what this looks like here in a second. Specific geography. Okay, what are the ways that I can get more specific with the geography of the keyword phrase or the content that I'm creating? Well, it's pretty obvious, right? The broad one would be homes for sale in Washington, right? We could get a little bit more specific, homes for sale in King County. And in fact, for a lot of you guys, a county sort of a search would be, in terms of the search engines, more specific than a city, or at least easier to rank for. Okay, it's going to be easier to rank for homes for sale in King County than it would be homes for sale in Seattle. But even more specific would be like a neighborhood. So homes for sale in Wallingford. Okay, even more specific, a subdivision or condo complex. And we talked about this stuff in the SEO class last week, right? These very specific ways that people search. They want an Aspetuck Village condo for sale in Shelton, right? Where Aspetuck Village is the name of the complex. Another way that we can get real specific, and a way that we see a lot of people searching, is near something. So homes for sale, again, where homes for sale is the subject matter component of our keyword phrase. Homes for sale in Redmond near Microsoft, right? And in the greater Northwest here, we've got a lot of, big companies that move people in. And so if somebody's moving into the area and they're going to be working at the Boeing plant in Renton, right, it's not shocking that they would go online and search for homes for sale in Renton near Boeing, right? So think about the major employers, homes for sale, and they don't always use the word near. Like for instance, with school districts, we've got the Bellevue School District is a top school district, or the Lake Washington School District is a top school district in our area. So we see people searching for, homes for sale in Redmond in the Lake Washington School District, right? maybe near landmarks or near another, like I know in the Bay Area, there's a lot of search behavior around the idea of being around like the BART system, right? The public transportation system here. So if you guys have those kinds of things, major employers, hospitals, right? We can create specific geography as a component of our overall keyword phrase geared towards the behaviors of and the ways that people search. Right? Homes for sale in Carriagewood, Renton, where Carriagewood is the name of the subdivision. Condos for sale, the Georgetown Commons, right? That's the name of the complex. Homes for sale near the Microsoft campus. And we notice that in these particular examples, what's our subject matter? It's that very general, at least as it relates to real estate, it's that very general subject matter. Homes for sale, condos for sale, townhomes for sale, right? Our geography gets a little bit more specific so that we're able to kind of target that long tail, right? Now, is it more common that somebody would search for homes for sale in Renton? Of course it is, right? But that person searching for homes for sale in Carriagewood, Renton, they're a heck of a lot closer to knowing what they want to do, right? And we're able to get our content ranking on the first page when we start to get more specific geographically. So the flip side of that then would be, well, if we want to have a less specific geography, we then need to think about, well, how can we target more specifically our subject matter? And again, right, our subject matter being homes for sale, condos for sale, houses for sale, real estate, these sorts of phrases. How can we get more specific with that? So here's a few ways, okay? I'll maybe give you a few more. We need to think about kind of things that we could add to homes for sale. So what are some ways out there that people will add kind of qualifiers to their subject matter in order to make it more specific? So condos for sale in Seattle under $200,000, right? We see a lot of this type of search behavior where people they know they've got a specific kind of maximum that they can spend, and they will actually go out and search condos for sale in Seattle under $200,000. I have a gentleman, and I've shared this story before in the past, but we had a guy who came to a couple of our rain camps, and we used to teach this sort of thing live around the country, and we get a couple hundred agents that would come and listen to Ben Kinney and I talk about these concepts. And we had a guy who came to our very first rain camp in Seattle, and then we did our last rain camp in Seattle about 14 months after that. And a gentleman approached me at that rain camp, and he said, "Hey, I want to thank you. You added 8 deals to my business, or 6 deals to my business last year." I'm like, wow, I didn't really do anything, but okay, cool. Like, what happened? And this guy's name was John, and he's an agent in basically the Tacoma area of Washington. And south of Tacoma, we have this giant base called Joint Base Lewis McChord. And it used to be Fort Lewis Army Base and McChord Air Force Base. And the government put these two bases together. And so now we have this huge military installation called JBLM, Joint Base Lewis McChord. And he said, after listening to you guys talk about this idea of the ways that people search, he said, I looked at my market, and I realized that we got a lot of people moving into the base, and a lot of these folks are looking for affordable housing around the base. And so he said, I set out to do a series of blog posts, and I did these things over about 3 months, because he couldn't sit down and just crank out 25 blog posts in a week. Or so he really kind of took a long-term approach to this, and he said, I'm going to write blog posts about all of the places around the base and all of the ways that I think people might be searching for information around the base. So he did things like condos for sale in Lacey under $200,000. He kind of knows, when people are getting relocated here, there's kind of these price points that they're looking in. So now he didn't just stop with condos for sale in Lacey under $200,000, right? He did it in Steilacoom, he did it in DuPont, he did it in, all of the little towns around the base. Then he went back and he did homes for sale under 250. Then he went back and he did condos for sale under 150. He really blanketed he did a bunch of posts like houses for sale near Joint Base Lewis McChord in Lakewood, right? He really thought about all of these variety of ways that people might potentially be searching for this kind of information. And what he said that he ended up getting was he would get people who would contact him or who would end up as a lead on his website, and then when he'd call them would say things like, man, you're all over the search engines, right? I mean, we were looking for houses in Lacey and Steilacoom and DuPont, and you just kept showing up kind of everywhere. Right? Think adjectives of a home. So homes for, ocean, we saw this earlier with Barbara, oceanfront homes for sale in Vero Beach, right? Mountain view, waterfront, lakefront. Another way that people will search is using this kind of with qualifier. So they're looking for something very specific in the home, right? Homes for sale in Seattle with a 3-car garage. And I'll give you a couple of other examples there. I always get people that say, we don't have subdivisions in our area. Nobody knows what these, the subdivisions are here, but nobody calls them by those anymore. That was just something there's a sign the builder put up, but nobody would ever say this. One of the tips that I would like to give you is look at your MLS. Look at how agents market properties in your MLS, and look at what fields your MLS displays, because what happens is when consumers are 8 months away from buying, and maybe they do end up on Realtor.com or Trulia or Zillow or Realestate.com or one of these places, as they start to look, they start to identify things that they might want in a home. Right? And this is not shocking to anybody, but they also start to see how agents are marketing these properties. And so as I'm sitting on Trulia, right, if I keep coming across this house in Seattle and it's in, Deer Park, right, and the agents marketed it as, beautiful home in the Deer Park subdivision of Seattle, and they start, when they come back, and because these are long processes that they're taking, when they come back a month from now and they sit down at their computer, in their head they're thinking, I really liked those houses on that website I was on, Zulia, Zillow, I don't remember. And they'll go to Google and they'll type in, homes for sale in Deer Park, Seattle, right? They're thinking about the things that they were seeing as they were looking for houses so many months before they were actually ready to jump. I can't tell you, it's probably been 15 times that I've sat with an agent who told me, well, we don't have this sort of thing in our market. And we've gone into onto their website, and I've just started looking at listings, and I'll be like, okay, well, what is Crestfield Manor? And they'll go, oh, well, nobody around here calls it that. And I'll say, well, the agent's marketing as that, which means consumers are out there finding this house and identifying it with being in this place. It's not a huge leap to think that they might go back and say, look, I just want to find the houses that are in this, Crestfield Manor. Some other ways, right? Adjectives of a home, colonial, Victorian, brick, or these are kind of the styles of homes. Things that describe the property, equestrian homes for sale, right? Homes for sale in a retirement community, homes for sale in a gated community, right? And then with our geography, of course, think names of builders. Some of the highest traffic posts that I've seen on Active Rain have builder names in them, right? So Del Webb, new Del Webb homes for sale in Anthem. A lot of these builders, they're not as savvy on the internet as maybe they could be, and so when they go out and they do, they're building a new plot, and this is less so today than it was a couple of years ago, but when they go out and they build this new plot, they do a lot of traditional advertising, right? But when somebody drives by that billboard and they see that these new homes are going up by Del Webb in Anthem, what are they going to do, right? Very few of them are going to pull off the road right there and drive in and meet the agent on site and walk. They're driving by this probably on the way home from work. They get home, they sit down, and they do something like new homes, Del Webb, Anthem. So there's lots of ways that we can get very specific with our subject matter. At the end of this class, or in the hour or two after class, we are going to send you guys out a PDF that you can download. And this PDF has 500 ways that people searched using the phrase homes for sale. And it has literally a massive variety of these types of concepts in it. Now, you'll have to apply it to your market, right? If you look at this thing and it's, homes for sale with a unfinished basement in Seattle, and you're not in Seattle, you're in Dallas, and you guys don't have basements, well, that might not be something you'd want to consider, right? But if you're in Omaha and you have basements and you realize that there's people in Seattle searching homes for sale with unfinished basement in Seattle, it might make sense that there's folks searching for that type of thing in your market. So again, we'll give you this PDF. You'll be able to download it. It's got 500 kind of varieties of ways, and they're varieties of ways that people have landed on blog posts on Active Rain in the last 30 days. Okay, and there's some, you'll see, and if you really take a look at that PDF, you will see that people search in some crazy ways, right? And the crazier they get, the more specific they get, would indicate to me that they're a heck of a lot closer to doing something. A few things to consider with your keyword phrase. You always want to make sure that your main primary keyword phrase is in the front of your title. And when you write a blog post on Active Rain, as you're typing in your title, I think it's 120 characters we give you because that's all that Google will display on the search result. But you really want to make sure that your keyword phrase is in the front, because you can add that flowery description in your title line, but you don't want to do it in the beginning. So earlier when we were looking at gorgeous waterfront home, she could have done something like, waterfront home for sale, Vero Beach, gorgeous views, something like that. But she would have wanted to have her keyword phrase in the front of that title. I said 120, I guess it's 70 characters. So your keyword phrase, you want to keep it at or under 70 characters. If you get over that, is it going to be the end of the world? No. But it's not all going to display on that query or that result in the search engine. Again, to reinforce what we talked about in the last class, you're never going to target more than one keyword phrase, right? So the guy I talked about with the Joint Base Lewis McCord post, he could have went out and said, homes for sale under $200,000 in Lacey, Lakewood, DuPont, Steilacoom, right? All he would have done is kind of minimize the impact or the ability to rank for any of those phrases by trying to rank for all four of them. Or he could have done homes for sale in Lacey under 200,000, under 150,000, under 100,000, right? You don't want to do that. You want to target one keyword phrase with one blog post. And then we're almost always going to use the geography. But almost and always, those words don't always go together. But not every single blog post we write is going to have the aim of ranking in the search engine. Sometimes we might write to our peers, right? Every once in a while we might write like a post that's highly personal or something. You don't always have to have that geography in there. But if you are gearing it towards ranking in the search engines and you're wanting people to kind of find that based on where they're looking, you definitely want to use some component of geography. So what are some other kinds of things that people search for? Some other posts that we see on Active Rain that get a lot of traffic. Well, these people are getting ready to move somewhere, right? So they're looking for kind of information about living there or information related to the idea of buying a home. The best neighborhoods, these posts, I think I've got an example here. These posts, like top 10 neighborhoods in Columbia, South Carolina, that post, and it's old, right? Now it's 5 years old almost, not quite. It's had 11,000 clicks on it. It means it's getting over 2,000 a year. It means it's getting a couple hundred clicks a month where somebody's looking to identify what are the best neighborhoods in Columbia, South Carolina. One of the things I like about this type of a post, and so this is the example that top, Cary NC, top Cary neighborhoods. It's had 4,000 clicks in the last 3 years. what she's done here is, you see, she's got, so top carry neighborhoods. She's going to give us, if we were to have the whole post on this page here, she maybe gives us 5 or 6 different neighborhoods. Okay. And each of those neighborhoods, so Cary Park, Highcroft, she's written her own specific posts for that neighborhood. And she actually links to them in here. Right? So she gives a little synopsis, but if we were to click back to the Cary Park post, right? Cary, North Carolina, Cary Park homes for sale. That post is its own post on Active Rain. Now, what she did then is, once she had 5 or 6 of these kinds of posts, she utilized that content she'd already created, to create another post that's capable of getting its own traffic, right? Based on its own keyword phrase, best neighborhoods in, or top carry neighborhoods. Tax information. We had a lot of search behavior finding blog posts on Active Rain around this idea of tax information, right? What are the property tax rates in Macomb Township? What are the property tax rates in Everett? Right? How do I, now, assessment dispute, right? That might be something where you're, they already bought their house, right? But it could also be somebody that's thinking about selling, or, right, they're definitely a homeowner. And the more opportunities we can take to educate homeowners in our market, right, the better position we put ourselves in for us to be the person they think of when it's time for them to buy or sell. When are taxes due, right? There's all these kind of things that we can write about around taxes. Loan information or home buying programs. If you're a loan officer on this call, I realize these calls are geared in a lot of ways towards real estate professionals. Now, I had a lady, she's based out of the Bay Area here in San Francisco, who came to me one day after watching our SEO class, and she said, I just don't think that people search for loan information and use geography. She said, I just think it's more common that if somebody was looking for an FHA kitty condo loan, that they would just search FHA kitty condo loan. And so I actually took her into the analytics on Active Rain, and I was able to show her, well, here's some examples, Jan. And I couldn't show her any examples for her market because there was nobody on Active Rain writing those kinds of posts in her market. And so I said, look, write a couple of these kinds of posts. What are some real popular programs in your area? And she said she lived in a college town, right? She lives near Berkeley. So she said, well, a lot of parents will, when they move their kids into Berkeley, will buy a condo for their kids. And there's this FHA kitty condo loan. She said that's something I could see people searching for that. And I said, okay, well, let's have you write something like FHA kitty condo loans in Berkeley. So she did that, and I didn't think much of it. And then it was probably 8 months later, she came back and she said, hey, I was wrong. She sent me an email, said, I had a lady, a week ago who contacted me, said that her daughter was moving to Berkeley, and they were looking at doing a loan like this for her. And she went online and searched, I think she didn't search FHA kitty condo loan in Berkeley, but it was something similar to that. She said that she was finding my posts because I'd written some of these posts and I'd used that geography. So, we see a lot of like FHA loan limits or FHA approved condos in, right? So FHA approved condos in Seattle, VA approved, right? We see this kind of search behavior. And again, this is just a modifier on the subject matter, right? It's a very specific subject matter. And then these searches are generally done in conjunction with a very loose geography. The House Key Opportunity Program. This was one of the things that I saw not too long ago in our analytics, where there was a lot of search behavior around that, right? And the funny thing is when we see something like this and it's happening like in one market, the reason I'm able to see it is because one of our members has written about it in their particular market. And what ends up happening is as I start to look at other markets, so let's say it's the House Key Opportunity Program in Enumclaw, Washington, because one guy out in Enumclaw wrote about this. If he's getting traffic, there's a pretty good chance that search behavior is happening in other places as well. We just may not be getting the traffic because nobody has written about it. Get ahead of them. What questions do they ask? Your emails are a great source of potential content, and I always use this as an example when somebody says to me, I don't have time to blog. And I say, you know what, you're probably doing it already, but you're doing it in an email, so just you're educating one person. They ask the question. The question is, we're thinking about getting ready to sell, and you're going to be our agent, so, can you give me some tips to get the house ready? Right? And you send them the email, and it's got the, here's 10 things that you should do to your house right now to get it ready to sell. Right? But consumers go online and ask those same questions of the search engines every single day. We see massive amounts of traffic, like tens of thousands of people every month who are coming to Active Rain asking who, what's, when, where's, and why's about real estate. Right? Because those are the same questions that you're getting in your email every single day. Now, I want to show you. Okay, so we're going to send you that PDF. It has 500 kind of variations on the phrase homes for sale. You can apply those things to like condos for sale. People are searching similar ways for condos for sale or townhomes for sale. Okay, so we'll give you that as kind of a guide. I would say your second best guide would be your gut. A third best guide would be Google AdWords Keyword Tool. And let me take you over here and show you what the Google AdWords Keyword Tool is. So you can Google, if you Google AdWords Keyword Tool, right? It brings you in and it brings you to this result right here. And you can click on that to get to this tool that Google offers as a service of Google AdWords. And the fact they offer it as a service of Google AdWords is important, because you have to understand why Google puts this here. Okay, they put this here because they want us to know what terms get lots of traffic that we could bid on if we want to send a ton of traffic to our website. But here's the thing. Let's say that I decided I was going to write about the Aspatuck Village condos in Shelton, CT. So you took my advice. You said, look, I think that writing about these condos is a good idea. Bob showed me in that SEO class that these things get a lot of traffic. They people doing these kinds of searches are looking for something very specific. I'm going to write about this. But before I do it, I'm going to run over to Google AdWords, and I'm going to check the keyword phrase I'm thinking about using. So I'm going to use Aspatuck Village condos, Shelton, CT. And when I put it in there and then I hit search, up here at the top of the page, it gives me my keyword, and then it shows me how much activity is on that keyword. Now, it's showing me 0. What this really means is this exact keyword phrase is searched for less than about 20 times a month. But we have to remember there's a whole variety of ways that somebody might search for something like this. And from the back end of Active Rain's Google Analytics, and again, this is just from the last 30 days. Okay, this is from March 23rd through April 23rd. When we come in here and look, we see people searching for this sort of thing in all sorts of variety, right? Like Aspatuck condos for sale in Shelton, CT. Now we can come back here, like let's take one of these. Let's do Aspatuck condos, Shelton, CT. Now this wasn't going to be our keyword phrase. We were going to do Aspatuck Village because that's what it's called. That's what we know it as. Now, had we searched this way, Google says, oh, hey, there's 36. We just didn't know the right thing to ask it, but we had the right concept, right? The concept was we were going to write about this condo complex. And we can see that based on this one, Aspatuck Condos, Shelton, CT, where is it? Aspatuck Condos, right here. We still got a couple new visitors. So Google AdWords keyword tool is a decent tool for you to use. One of the things I like to do in using it is I like to look at, like, let's say I did Aspetuck Village condos, and it's going to tell me, there's 0, but I know that's not true. It just means there's less than 20. I like to come in here and look at some of the variations that they might suggest. And I'm really looking for like some of the lower ones, right? Aspetuck Village, Shelton CT, low. So I know I can get medium. I can sometimes get onto the page, right? Low, I'm definitely going to be able to get on the page. And so I go through here and just look at some of the variations and the ways that people will search for things. But remember, again, this is the goal of this tool is to show you like, hey, don't do anything for this phrase, right? You should come down here and bid on, condos in Greenwich or homes for sale in Shelton, right? That's got a lot more traffic to it. But we realize that cumulative effect, right? Because she's not just going to write about Aspetuck Village. She's going to write about, the neighboring condo complex and the other 8 condo complexes in town, right? And cumulatively, those are going to send a bunch of traffic to her site. Right, in the last 30 days, she's had 45 visitors to her blog post on some form of Aspetuck Village, including some real specific, like looking for a condo for sale. Right, here she is, right, and here's her post. And again, we used this as an example in the first week's class. And we saw that this post had, it's had like 4,000 clicks on it or something over its lifetime, over the 3 years, I think, that she's had this post up, not quite 3 years. Like I said, your instincts and experience, I believe, are best. Or maybe the gleaned instincts and experience that you've gotten from me today, and especially that PDF that we send out. There will literally be 500 ways that people have found blog posts on Active Rain that our members have written based on the phrase homes for sale, and a ton of variations on, geography or subject matter as it relates to that.